I,
I
I thought you were gonna tone it down a little bit. Okay. All right. I would like to call this meeting to order, the regular board meeting of Wednesday, August 28th, CCWD. And would you all please rise and join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would you please call the roll?
Director Underhill, Director Ratterman,
Here.
Director Davidson,
Here.
President Thomas.
I am here, and I would like to point out that Director Cicada is in Oregon dealing with unfortunate family occurrence. Okay, and I'd like to take this opportunity to draw your attention to the agenda, item 4B. This is a discussion regarding Calaveras County Civil Grand Jury Report, CCWD's 5-year rate plan. As you know, the grand jury kind of made some, I don't know, charges against the district on various subjects, and this was one of them. I took it upon myself to kind of pull this particular one off the agenda for today. We will be bringing it back to discuss it with other elements of the grand jury response at probably the Michael, what are we determined, the 11th or the 25th?
Probably the second meeting in September.
Okay. All right. We're postponing it, yes. It was my feeling that discussing this today would be kind of redundant because we'd be discussing it later anyway. So therefore, we will not be discussing 4B today. And at this time, I would like to go to item 2, public comment. Members of the public may address the board on any non-agendized item. The public is encouraged to work through staff to place items on the agenda for future board consideration. No action can be taken on matters not listed on the agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. Any public comment? Francisco, come forward.
Good afternoon, Francisco de la Cruz, Valley Springs. A question then, since item 4B is moved, does that mean that I shouldn't comment at all, or just because that's one of the reasons?
Yeah.
Here.
Well, you know, that's a kind of an interesting thing. Technically, it's not on the agenda today, so I suppose it
So I'll keep
falls.
it brief.
Yeah.
My original public comment is a request on change of meetings and notification thereof. If we could have at least 24 hours or more notice that a meeting is canceled, makes logistics on our end a little easier to deal with. Some of us, if we're going to come driving all the way in to find the meeting not taking place, would be a little bit concerning, especially with some of us having some cost issues. So I'd ask if future meetings are canceled, that we would try to have it, or at least also have something on the online, because I got calls saying, hey, what happened to the meeting? And fortunately, I had the email that said, hey, it's canceled. On the rate plan that I was going to comment on, what I'd really like to have is some very specific information about how the tiers, the word usage characteristics is used in the response, but how they were tiered, what specific things happened. I'm having difficulty understanding how, if I use 1,500 cubic feet of water, the next cubic foot is going to be 12% more. I don't know what cost components come in to provide me that step function. So I would be looking to have some further discussion and understanding how specifically it was determined that 1,500 something happens and it costs you 12% more. At 3,000, something else happened and it costs you another 12% more. So what additional cost components come into play that forces that. And I understand the usage, winter versus summer and all of that, but, you know, I don't think you have, or maybe I don't understand the operations well enough. But is there a step function that kicks in during summer? Is that how you're using the justification? But we can discuss that at a later date. But that's a key issue that we haven't been able to run down by reviewing the cost of service study in depth and trying to understand the algorithms that you use. The other statement that we were going to challenge is that it's flawed to compare the two cost of service study rate cases. And we take issue with that because you still are in the business of delivering treated water, and you still are in the business of cleaning up wastewater. There's gallonages in each of those 5 years. There's millions of gallons treated and millions of gallons used in the other. And you now have actual dollars as opposed to projected dollars. So you can compare. Is it costing us 20% more for that same million gallons of water treated, or is it costing us the same? Those are the kinds of questions that can be answered when you compare the numbers, but you don't provide those numbers, so it becomes difficult to do that outside of that. So we'll be asking for those numbers. Thank you.
Okay, Francisco, just before you step away, I want to take full responsibility for that unfortunate incident that took place with the Public Relations Committee. When I became aware that Kelly was feeling ill and wasn't going to be able to be here, and in the absence of our regular committee person, Cindy Cicada, I took it upon myself to say, well, you know, we cancel it right now, or we just tell people that we have nothing to discuss when they get there. And if it wasn't, it was an unforeseen circumstances completely. It was not, has it ever happened before? It's never happened to
Well,
me.
excuse me, but because I'm the alternate, I was all set to come down.
Well, did we reach out to this Director Underhill?
Oh, okay. Well, let me just tell you something. We've talked about this, putting it on the, on our director's thing or our email is well and good, but it's that call. It's that call. How many people look at their laptop? How many people use their iPhone constantly? That's
Okay.
so I think I would
All right.
propose we make phone calls.
Director Underhill, my shoulders are broad enough to take that criticism, and I apologize. I apologize.
So the directors are aware, though, the website was updated and we used the emergency banner stating that it was canceled as well.
Okay. We
Well,
will,
thank you. Yeah.
as with most things around here, we will attempt to do better. I mean, we're human, and what can I say? Okay, Kelly, are you feeling better? Getting there? Okay. We certainly didn't do it on purpose. Okay, Michael.
Mike Castro, Valley Springs. On rare occasions, I remotely dial in for the meetings. I pointed out a couple of months ago that there is no access for me on a dial-in basis to flag that I care to speak. And I would like you guys to rectify that problem with the system, so anybody calling in to a meeting, whether they're going in on Zoom, video, call, dial-in, or whatever, that they have the same options as everybody else to participate.
Our system is perfectly capable for you to make comment from a cell phone. You just can't raise your hand. So when we ask for public comment, you just have to speak up.
You just have to speak. There's no
Correct.
anything you can put so we can press one and it
It's
flags.
the system that we're working with.
Okay, so I said I found that confusing when I participated, that I have no option to indicate I want to
Okay.
say something.
Okay. As long as I'm here in this chair, I will make it a point to say, if there's anybody online on a cell phone, you want to make a comment, please let us know. So.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
All right, if there's anybody online on a cell phone that wants to make a comment,
He's a quick learner.
please speak up. How about PR? The person designated as PR, please state your name.
Okay, Patrick Roy, once again, Rancho Calaveras.
Hello, Pat.
I have one question related to seasonal water costs. And it's kind of basic. I just want to know, does CCWD have to pay more for its water during summer than it does during winter? Or is that just a rate structure that it impacts the ratepayers?
My best to follow up on that. We can follow up on that online or offline or when we bring that item back.
I think that's something the public would like to know online.
We'll do that online. We just can't do it when we're not on that agenda item. So I think we should.
It's not agendized, so we can't have that discussion.
Okay, then save that for the 4B meeting or when
Yeah.
the meeting is
Yes.
closed. Okay.
Yep.
It'll be raised again there. Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else who wishes to speak under public comment today? Okay. All right, moving on to the consent agenda. We have item 3A, approval of minutes for the board meeting of August 14th. And we have 3B, the report on the monthly investment transactions for July 24.
Move for acceptance.
Second,
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Favor?
Hmm?
All those in favor?
Here.
Chomping it a bit long.
All those in favor?
aye.
Aye. Are there anyone opposed? No. Okay, that motion carries. All right, going on to item.
Speak as well.
Um,
Opportunity on this at this point.
Sorry, I was trying to hit the button and it disconnected me from the meeting when you asked.
you tried to hit the button to disconnect you or to connect you?
To say that I wanted to speak when he just asked.
Okay, we just approved the consent agenda. There were no items taken off that, so that is not subject to discussion.
I'm guessing he missed public comment at the beginning of the meeting.
Did you have a public comment that you wanted to raise on something that isn't on the agenda?
Yes, I did.
Okay, would you please state your name?
Don Johnson.
Don?
Yeah, Don Johnson, if you
Don Johnson?
Correct.
All right, go ahead, Don.
I wanted to know about the test supply. It shows we're spending about $200,000 a year on lab testing. However, on the consumer confidence reports for each location, the information that's released is not a complete analysis. It's only a few select items that are listed on there. And it doesn't show any of the contaminants or anything like that. The only contaminant reporting that I've seen stopped in 2021.
Mr. Johnson, your audio is kind of garbled a little bit. I understood you say that there's a $200,000 expenditure that's not clear to you. Can you clarify your question?
I wanted to know why the full water analysis reports are not being released. We're spending $200,000 annually on lab testing for the drinking water supplies at different locations. And on the county websites, they're only releasing a few select things off of the tests. They're not showing the full results. So they're not showing any of the contaminants that were listed or anything like that, or any of the radiological stuff.
So if you could provide us, if you could provide us with your contact info, we can get back to you on that. We can't respond to questions here in public comment. But we can answer your question for you.
Okay, do you want that now?
Could you email, probably best to email customer service? What's the?
Or to make it easier for him, can we ask him to put his,
Or if you could put it in the chat
In the
or
chat.
customer service at
where you're at right now?
Is the email address.
Just type it in.
And we'll
Just
get
type
it.
in my email.
No, type in your question or your.
No, we know I know
public-
the question. We just need his contact info so we can reach out to
Oh.
him. But I wouldn't put that in the chat necessarily unless you want to. You can email customer service at ccwd.org.
Okay. And then also I wanted to, bring up the salaries that are being paid to upper management. And their salary structure as far as the raises go. We've got a general manager that's making over $200,000 a year. Has vehicles that are paid for by the county, as well as some of the other upper management, and all the salaries are upwards of 100 to 200% above national average.
Okay, Mr. Johnson, we'll get back to you on all of that. All to
And then
address those
my
questions.
other last one was on your budgets that you were releasing, showing the construction cost and income coming in and things like that. The grants that you guys have received, I see 3 different ones, 14 million, 3.2 million, and I believe 3.4 million. None of those were reflected in the county budget.
We are not a division of the county.
Well, in the water budget, excuse me, but
He means the water district's budget, but we can't comment, we can't answer questions during public comment. You've made your comments. Thank you.
Okay, if that concludes your concerns and comments, Mr. Johnson, we have to move on to new business 4A, the August Customer Service Department update.
Good afternoon, President Thomas, directors of the board, Kelly Richards, Business Services Manager for CCWD, and I am here today to provide a customer service update. This has been a long time coming. I have not provided you all with an update for several months, so happy to share some new information on the productivity within customer service specifically, and then speak to a couple of previously addressed items to point out within the update itself.
Why do you ignore us for so long?
It's unintentional. I've been very busy. All right, so to kick us off today, just in keeping on par with prior updates and showing our activity as it relates to calls, emails, and work orders. You can see that we're starting to develop some historical data here that will display trends in regards to those 3 areas and the work in those areas that we're handling on a monthly basis within the customer service department. So I recognize that it's been several months since I've reported on these numbers. But
Yes, Scott.
I still wanted to point out and focus on July specifically being the most recent prior month, completed month for activity and customer service. We've had many leaks and concerns, calls coming in for both customer side and district side leaks or abnormal water consumption. We, during the summer, tend to experience elevated starting and stopping of service as it relates to the transfer of ownership and properties within our service area. And then we were also busy with customer assistance program enrollment and renewal. So that took up the bulk of our customer correspondences for the month of July. We obviously had an uptick in all areas, including calls, emails, and work orders. We averaged about 55 calls a day. Our average handle time was about a little shy of 4 minutes. And we spent about 20% of our time on customer calls during the month of July. One thing that I did want to point out is that our average wait time for customers to have their call answered did increase slightly during the month of July. And in looking at that, we're attributing that to there were several weeks where we had a transition period between our prior customer service representative and our new customer service representative starting with us. And then we also had folks out of the office for illness and vacations. So that contributed to a little bit longer wait time for customers when they called in. But I'm happy to report that it's significantly reduced since then so far for the month of August.
We don't break it down. Do we get very many calls regarding sewer? Is it mainly water? Or is it billing, or is it, I mean, do we have breakdown of?
So moving on to this slide here, Director Davidson. So basically, when we get calls that are coming in on the phone tree, we're able to discern the type of call that's coming in by only 3 call queues. So we have a customer service call queue, a leak call queue, and then any other questions. The hardest part about the phone system that we're using is it's not a true call center phone system where we might be able to attribute calls to certain call types. It's very broad in nature. So we would have to have some sort of other tracking mechanism to determine how many calls come in that are sewer related versus water related. We don't get as many sewer calls as we do water, but you can see under service orders that I've started tracking the type of service orders that we do create within customer service for our operations staff based on some of the calls that we have coming in. And so I thought that might glean a little bit more detail as to,
No, that does. It does.
you know, some of those things. And so you'll see that we obviously have leaks were the number one. We had occupant changes, like I said, for move-ins and move-outs. And then we did have some sewer inspections and sewer issues. So it kind of breaks it down there a little bit further based on the calls that we receive. And not every call, I should say, not every call necessitates an action item for operations. But if we determine that it is something that obviously needs to be addressed out in the field, we'll go ahead and create that service order, which translates over into their work order system. And I'm happy to report that we are maintaining a pretty consistent high level of percentage of calls answered when customers are reaching out to us, as opposed to how many that we're having to have go to voicemail and call back. I will reiterate that the customer service team, we do not leave at the end of the day until all of our calls have been returned. And that's in an effort to make sure that at least customers have some sort of contact before the end of the day. It may not mean that whatever the issue is or the concern is resolved by the end of the day, but at least contact has been made on behalf of customer service to the customer.
That's positive. That's good.
Yes.
Yeah, this all sounds great. Do you have any, or do you track any information on the length of time between the voicemail left and the call returned?
We would have to track that separately. So we would have to, customer service would have to note that a call came in at 12 noon and we returned it at 2 p.m. There's not anything, unfortunately, within our system that does that automatically. But typically what ends up happening is if a customer ends up leaving a voicemail for us, the system that we utilize will send us an email with a recording of the message itself. And the email goes into the customer service email box so that any of us in customer service can return that call. And like I said, we return all calls by the end of the day that for emails that we have received based off of voicemails.
Well, just on that one subject alone, I want to commend you for an awesome job and a big uptick in customer service.
Yeah.
There was at one point 3 years ago, probably at least, that it was, that we seem to be proud that we we return calls within 2 to 3 days.
Mhm.
That is so, I'm so happy to hear. What you're
And by
saying.
contrast, I'm waiting on 4 calls from the Calaveras County Building Department for a couple weeks.
Now, we do have
And they
some-
even say that they will call you back the next day. I think they got
And
caller ID.
our system is, what system are we using?
The phone system that we're utilizing is called Ring Central. And, one of just a sidebar on that, between IT and customer service, we are consistently having conversations about technology and what we're currently using and what options are out there. And as you know, technology evolves very quickly. Ring Central may have been a great solution for us at the time when we launched it, and we're currently utilizing it to the extent of its capabilities for what the system has available to us now. We are exploring other options.
And I
for
thought
phone
you were,
system.
right.
And so I do have to tell you that we are looking at other options. We're testing other options. But in the scheme of projects right now that we are helping to manage, myself included, it is kind of fall into the secondary, tertiary level of priority as we are currently implementing the finance and payroll side of the Tyler system, which is priority 1 at this point. So it has not fallen off our radar. We're having these conversations. There are options available to us that are both financially, fiscally responsible, for the district, but then also offer a lot of the same features that we have now, maybe more, and might be even more efficient in our communications, not only with customers, but with our staff. As you may or may not be aware, we have staff all over the county, and sometimes it can be challenging to get a hold of them depending on where they're located. And so we're trying to explore and look outside of the box for solutions that might allow us to communicate more effectively with our staff as well. So those are our talks and things that we're looking into at this time.
And I just want to add to Director Adderman's compliment. The fact that you answer every call before you leave is so critical. It is just so critical, and I commend you for that.
Well, the feedback that we've gotten from customers and many of us live in this community as well. So we're on social media and we see, comments and we receive feedback and I think it's a big, a priority for our customer service staff to feel like we are being responsive. We may not be able to answer your call on the first try, but please leave us a message and I assure you we will return your call. And so that's just something that I would like to stress, that we aim to answer your call within the first attempt. If not, we welcome you to leave a voicemail and we will return your call. Sometimes escalations might take a little bit longer, but by that point, the customer should have been, we should have made contact with the customer and they know that it's been escalated and it's being worked on. So I would like to make that, point that out.
So two things real quick.
Mhm.
On your voicemail, does it actually say that we will return your call before the end of business day or within 2 hours or anything like?
I believe our voicemail says we will return your call within 24 hours. And
Okay.
so we,
You beat that.
we beat that.
Okay.
And so, that's something that we would like to maintain. And for our customer service reps, with everything else that we do in there, because we do have daily tasks that we have to perform and things operationally that need to be done. But our number one focus is customer response.
No, I think that it is kind of, you're asking them to please leave a message. Please tell us something about why you're calling.
Right.
We will return your call. I think you need to elicit some words out of their mouth before they hang up. And I
That's
think
the
that
goal.
does help
That's
Let's
the,
do that.
yes, that's the
Okay.
goal.
My last question on that service order graph with there's 60 occupant change? Is that
Yes.
people moving? People,
That's people moving in and moving out.
wow.
Yes.
Mm.
And,
I think there's
and
that much activity in the real estate market these days. Are they tenants?
it's pretty, no, so our accounts are, and our relationship, our billing relationship is only with the property owner. Whatever agreement,
That's what I mean. Are the, yeah, I certainly knew that, but are the people moving in and out, are they the customers' tenants?
no, so,
Oh.
so that would have, tenant change would have no bearing on an occupant change. So the only
Okay.
time that we would initiate an occupant change or a move in, move out situation is if property ownership changed.
Wow.
So, and we go based off of close of escrow date with the county because we are connected into the back end of county records and we're able to use that information to prompt the occupant change within our side of the system.
But is the occupant change, does that also include billing to the tenant?
That does include, so we process the occupant change, and then what that will subsequently mean is that we process a final billing for the previous owner. And now we've, issued the account under the new owner, property owner, and we will bill them out for the next bill run.
Our tenants have to call in to get their name and address on the next bill.
Right, so a property owner would have to sign a document through us for a secondary billing situation where they would also like their tenant to be included on the account. And we have to get property owner authorization for that to occur. But they still remain as the primary on the account and primarily responsible for the account and any charges related to that. But the tenant can call in and ask questions about the account, make payments, and receive a bill to their location.
And the top two graphs are dealing with that one year, or the bottom two graphs dealing with the same period of time?
No, the bottom two graphs, thank you. I should probably have specified that a little bit better, and I'll do that moving forward. But the bottom two graphs are specifically for the month of July. And we're looking at just activity for the month of July. So I will make sure that I notate that moving forward. One of the things that I wanted to try to look into, which has been mentioned in the past, but I would like to collaborate and speak with Damon, Pat, and their staff a little bit more, are service orders that we've issued that remain open on our side of the system. So just as in a brief kind of explanation of the feedback loop between customer service and operations, there are calls that are received in customer service where we need to, submit a service order in our side of the system connected to an address. What that does is it communicates directly in with operations mobile MMS platform, and a work order is then created for field staff. They will go out and perform the work. They will close the work order on their side, and then we receive a notification into customer service that we need to close the service order within our system at that point. So it's this kind of work order feedback loop, if you will. And we do see that there are obviously still open service orders that we have issued in past months that we are showing are still open on our side. But it doesn't necessarily mean that the work hasn't been done.
Right.
We receive several calls for a singular issue. And it may be that the service order that we take for a leak at one address, we tie to another address, even though it's already been resolved. So there's some cleanup that has to happen. We're addressing this on the customer side. And so we're going to discuss our plan moving forward for making sure that we are taking a look at these open service orders on our side and collaborating a little bit more effectively with operations to make sure that at month end, we have no open service orders. So these are some of the things that we're looking at and that we talk about and we're exploring on a regular basis now that we're fully staffed and we have the capability to really start tightening up operations.
How many people are answering? That's 1,200 calls in 1 month. How many people are answering phones?
We have 2 people answering phones regularly every day.
Wow.
Barring any,
Congratulations.
time off. Thank you. So we do have a senior that will jump in and answer phones as well during breaks or if somebody's off. And then of course, I will always be available to jump in if need be to answer calls if something happens and we're short staffed. So
A couple of things on the service orders that are left over. Are you having a more experienced service clerk taking a look at those, or is everybody, yeah,
Yes.
uh-huh.
Yeah, so we're going to establish a more routine way of looking at these that are still existing as open. And then, like I said, collaborating a little bit more effectively with the operations side to make sure we didn't miss anything. But then also make sure that API or that connectivity between what we're issuing on the front end in our system is communicating effectively with their system, their work order system as well. We want to make sure nothing's missed.
Right.
So these are, again, I've spoken to it in past updates where, we've been a little bit short-staffed and we've been kind of lumping along, to be honest with you, and making sure that we're just taking care of whatever our true priorities are. But now that we're fully staffed and we are effectively cross-training and onboarding our staff, and we're having these discussions and we're taking a look at, more broadly at our operations, we're really starting to dial in how we tighten some of these things up and how we make it better with the technologies that we're currently using.
Any further questions over here?
I just have one. I assume if somebody was to look at Damon's reports, we'll have the check leak. There'll be 69 check leaks on his report, and he'll have that even more itemized to perhaps understand the locations that are reoccurring. Is that correct, Damon?
That I think, well, I'll have Damon talk to it, but that might involve your heat map situation.
Yes, so we can't necessarily at a glance look at all of those and read what the synopsis is for each, but we could actually see them and then individually.
So you just deal with the service orders, and so you can track it that way.
Yep, and we can dive into each one in detail. Yep.
Right.
I believe we had a question from the audience.
Well, just hang on a second. Kelly, this last thing on that little green list about the coming soon operations ride along. If you're handling 1,300 calls and you put one of your staff members in with Damon, will they have a cell phone so they can take calls?
Well, that's where the beautiful shift of tasks happens. And, again, like I've spoken to in the past, in getting us fully staffed in there was an absolute focus of not only mine, but of the department's management, and Michael's as well. So I'm just very grateful that we are staffed in a way now where we can fully experience, not only the customer support element, but engaging our staff and educating our staff in a hands-on way and having them interface a little bit more closely with operations, who we work very closely with on a daily basis. And in turn, that knowledge will help us help the customers better. It will allow us to work more closely and fluidly with operations on a daily basis. And I think just provides a little bit more investment for our customer service reps, and we're investing in their knowledge and their development. And then we can also plan for the future, not only within our department, but within the district itself and tap into our new staff's strengths. And so I'm really excited for that opportunity. So in addition to our normal stuff that we're doing every day, we are, having quite a bit of cross training happening. We've resurrected our weekly meetings with staff. So we're discussing a lot of these topics. We're talking about things that are working, things that are not working, maybe things that we've backburnered that we're reminding ourselves that we need to address. And then we're also collaborating with operations to make sure that our staff has that interface with them and is building that relationship and that communication. So I'm very excited about that.
So is there going to be sit-along trainings where we bring in
We've actually
two
talked about
guys
it.
and let them
Talked about it.
let them
So
answer a couple phone calls and understand the frustration?
we've
everybody
talked
goes
about
through?
it. Yeah, and that's one side of it where it is very important for our ladies in the office to have that, field interaction, but we invite any of our staff to come in and sit with us. Even if it's just for a handful of hours and get a glimpse of some of the interaction that
we
we're
have
having.
talked about that
Yes,
aspect for
yes.
several years.
It's very
Yes.
rewarding, but there's something to be said about there's a certain type of personality that can handle the field work and a certain type of personality that can handle the office work. And there just needs to be, that mutual kind of respect and trust that's built. And I think we've got some really good staff to help lead us in that direction now. So
Yeah, they need to know that you guys both have each other's back.
exactly, exactly. So that's a focus of ours. And I'll be happy to report on that as the ladies start getting out in the field. Hopefully I'll have some neat stories and photos to share in future presentations.
Boots on the ground.
Exactly, exactly.
Good to hear.
So, and just moving forward in some of the topics here, one of the things that I always report on is our customer portal and obviously our customer assistance. It has been asked in the past for me to investigate and take a little bit deeper dive into our portal membership and what that means. And so I've been working with Tyler on that and on a number of things actually, but in working with them, we were able to put together a report out of the system that will show me what our membership level is. And by membership, I mean how many active memberships we have on the portal. So how many people have registered. And so what I've been reporting historically is the number that I get when I log into the back end of the portal itself. So we have an administrative back end and there's a number on there that I've been reporting to you in prior updates. And Tyler was able to clarify for me that that is the total number of active and inactive portal memberships. So that does not just reflect active folks, active account holders. It can also reflect account holders who have made or registered on the portal, but they're no longer an active customer with us. They've moved, they've sold their property, but they never went in and actually deleted their membership account with us. So I actually just heard back from Tyler today that they're going to be putting together a report for me on those accounts that are inactive, and then we can maybe help tidy up the system a bit. But I, obviously expressed I'd like to receive that on a more regular basis so that we can take a look and see where we might be able to clean that up. Any way you cut it, it doesn't necessarily hurt anything. It's just for reporting purposes. It's not just active. It is active and inactive. So as of, the time of this presentation, we have about 9,414 accounts, that portal accounts, but that is both active and inactive memberships. The report that we've created through Tyler will provide us with total current active memberships that are linked to a utility billing account. And so we have about a little over 9,000 of those in the system. So we do have many of our customers with multiple portal accounts tied to their singular utility billing account. So it's as if my husband and I as customers each have our own portal account tied to our individual emails. So one account, but two portal memberships, if that makes sense. What I'm looking for specifically was unique membership. So I want to know just how many accounts, active accounts in our system have a portal membership. And that's 8,466 at the time of the presentation. We have a total number of 13,889 active UB accounts, which equates to about 61% of our active customer accounts that are registered on our portal. And one of the things that I did want to report on today, while 61% in the grand scheme of things may not seem very high, I did dive in a little bit further than that and have been tapping into some of American Water Works Association or AWWA's benchmarkings and reports that they put out. And they did in January of 2022 a very extensive analysis on the consumer benefits and engagement for AMI-based programs and portals. And in their executive summary for that report, they did mention that they had kind of put together 25 published studies and reviewed that AMI portals or customer portal signup rates range between 30 and 45% nationally. Also, they conducted interviews with U.S. utility managers, and that portal registration rates can very much more within just our area for water, anywhere from 4% to 71%. but that they noted a majority of utilities lean toward the lower end of the spectrum. So I feel pretty, excited and happy at the fact that we're at 61%. And this is a new
Proud. Say
launch.
proud.
Yeah, we're very proud. That we are, at this percentage at this time. And we haven't even really begun to scratch the surface of our outreach yet for the smart meter portal side of it, the alerts and things like that. So again, that is forthcoming. We're trying to incorporate that in with all of the projects that we have going right now, but Kelly and social media has also been pushing out, portal information. We're encouraging people to access the portal and enroll on the front of the bills, on the back of the bills. So we're trying to reach both, the electronic, social media side, and then also the printed media side for those that don't have access to online. But I think this is a success for us at this point, and obviously we can go up from here. And I think with further engagement in the community, we'll be able to do that. And I look forward to reporting on higher active account registrations in the future. CAP renewal, we went through that process. We processed all CAP renewals by July 1st. It's a pretty involved process. Not everybody renews. And so that involves removing that CAP designation from the account for future billings. For those that don't renew, for those that are brand new, we have to add that designation. So again, just to refresh, we are able through the program to assist 237 water customers and 175 wastewater customers. As of today, we have 196 water customers receiving assistance and 109 wastewater customers. So we still have availability. We are pushing that under both. Yes, we still have availability under both. Folks are able to access CAP information not only on our website, but they can also call into us. This is something that we are addressing over the phone with customers from the customer service standpoint. We do in customer service send out a welcome packet to new customers, people who have taken over accounts. And within our welcome packet, there's information about our assistance program. We're trying really hard, to share that information as best we can. Obviously, many customers reach out to us and are either missing documentation or we need clarification, or they don't meet the parameters of the program because it's not their primary residence, things of that nature. So we are handling those as well, but there is more to come on updates to the customer assistance program itself. At a future board meeting, we'll be presenting an idea to update the CAP requirements, and hopefully that will elicit some additional enrollment from our customers. There we go. Another topic, a big topic that has been brought up in the past is, our activities in customer service and how they tie to CCWD's strategic plan. A lot of what we do on the front end in customer service, there's quite a bit that we handle. And I think there can be a perception that, we sit and answer phones all day and answer emails and that's about it. And that's really not the case. Our CSRs are very involved in a lot of front-end processes for maintaining accounts. We interface very closely with finance. We interface very closely with engineering and operations. We are constantly moving for our full 8 hours every day. And granted, there is still items that have, like I said, been backburnered that we are trying to bring to the forefront and resurrect now that we have the staff to do so. But I did just want to point out some of the things that we are doing in customer service and how they tie to the specific areas of the strategic plan. So for customer experience, we've really worked hard to establish a set of division standards for our team that kind of set priorities and an operational baseline for how we just conduct ourselves within the customer service department on a daily basis. And that can include anything from consistency in answering the phones and responding to customers to how far in advance we need to request time off and what resources we utilize in order to do that. So it just is a very detailed document that is a living document and can be updated at any time, but really just kind of reflects the standard for which we would like to operate within customer service. Our phone system is set up to provide more immediate assistance to customers. And again, I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but when I first got here, our phone system was a little discombobulated. We had many different options. I think it sent people on a wild goose chase, and we've since kind of tamped that down a bit. And again, we're looking at other options for phone system at this time, but for the one that we use, we're trying to make it so that customers don't feel like they're waiting too long to get a customer service rep. It does, the system phone tree does direct customers to other departments within CCWD, depending on what it is they're looking for. But for customer service, we try to make it very simple for somebody to reach us. We have moved forward with planned water shutdown calls, texts, and email notifications using our Tyler system. We've been very successful in that so far, and really look at it as a win for both customer service and operations in the amount of time it takes us to do that, as opposed to making phone calls to hundreds of customers at times or dropping door tags. So that's been a success. We also have the customer portal, which provides additional access for account activity and usage for our customers, instead of simply just having to call in and talk to somebody. It kind of, puts that information at their fingertips. For fiscal responsibility, obviously we partner with finance, and we're moving forward with the implementation of that core financials module. We have regular and timely billing of all of our water and wastewater accounts. As you all know, we've been trying to make sure that our billing is consistent, and in regards to the AMI project, making sure that field staff have enough time to go out and troubleshoot meters that may not be reporting, getting us reads that we still have to collect manually, and moving that process forward. And then obviously, making sure that our staff in customer service is understanding and effectively communicating policies regarding water and wastewater here at the district. We do get a lot of calls from customers where they are wondering why. Why do we do some of the things that we do? Why do we have some of the, procedures or processes in place? And we're able to effectively refer back to our policies on that. Operational integrity. So we have development of SOPs for efficiency and consistency. So we're constantly trying to draw those up when we come across a new process that needs to be documented. We're pulling data and reports annually for operations and water resources in order to fulfill regulatory reporting requirements. We've obviously got many programs, projects, and initiatives that meet the expectation or the level set by the strategic plan. So we've got the integration of the billing system with AMI. Like I said, we're evaluating and amending policies and implementing new policies in order to, meet the expectations of the district and our customers. And then we run the CAP program. And then we also, which many people may not know, is we distribute water efficiency materials to customers who are seeking to conserve. We have items here in customer service. If you come to our office here in Toma Court in San Andreas, we are able to provide some water efficient items for households in order to maybe conserve some water there at the property. We collaborate with state and local agencies on financial assistance. And then, like I stated, we're onboarding brand new representatives here in customer service in order to meet the needs of our customers and our operational needs. And then we're developing staff as well. So I think, in looking at the strategic plan and just kind of meeting those general goals, I think customer service has been very successful within the last year or two to really address some of these things and tie it directly back to those strategic plan initiatives. And that concludes my presentation for today. I'm available for any questions.
Okay. Any other questions from board members?
In our Aqua newsletter, there was a reference made to SB 1255. Michael, are you aware of that one? That's a customer assistance program.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that one is not moving forward.
Oh, it's
good
not
news.
moving forward.
Good news for the water industry. Not-
Okay,
I mean, we fully support any sort of rate assistance for low income ratepayers. But the way that that one was conceived was going to be an administrative nightmare for water agencies. So they're holding off on that.
because we qualified, because I think they said something like, if you have over 1,300 water customers.
Listen,
No, but I think it was the income source was a voluntary income source.
Yeah, from other customers.
Yeah, but it was
What it-
a mandatory, everybody is opted in unless they affirmatively opt out to make
Can
voluntary.
you imagine
contributions.
the calls that we would get, and emails we received, if everybody was opted into that program?
Right.
Yeah.
That you have to do a donation?
And there were some other administrative difficulties with that one, but yeah,
Right.
that one's not moving forward
Okay,
for now.
it's tabled, it's off the, all right, we won't discuss it anymore. Thank you.
Mhm.
you have a question?
Francisco.
Well, I have one question for you. Returning back to when you were talking about when a property owner authorizes the bill to go to his the tenant, does the customer or owner still get a duplicate bill?
Yes.
Okay, just want to clarify that. All right, if there's no more questions, Francisco, did you have a question?
Thank you. I was fortunate in attending the committee meeting where the Tyler Technologies products were discussed. And I dug into trying to understand which of the Tyler modules are being implemented, because I found the one called Enterprise Asset Management Software to be one that I thought you all were going to be implementing towards the end. Is that correct, or is that? Are you implementing asset management software at the tail end of the Tyler implementation or no?
No, that's not one of the modules.
No?
But that-
So- I mean, it's the one that gives the customer the most voice on some of the things that Kelly was just describing. Because it gives them a tablet or a phone and they go that, report stuff, and it generates a work order, going to operations staff, and they would get it on their stuff. So I'm kind of concerned that we're spending all of this money on Tyler and we're not taking advantage of some of the capabilities that it offers. So I'd like to understand just exactly where the cost savings are if we're implementing all of these functions in Tyler and leaving out one of the most critical ones for what reasons I don't understand. Secondly, I sent emails to Kelly saying that I was going to look into it further so I could understand what Tyler website was describing as citizen-facing reports. And there's a place on their website to contact Tyler Technologies directly, but it asks you to identify yourself as a type of question or customer you are. And for those citizens requesting additional information, they refer them back to the agency that is using the Tyler. So I'm back to here, bothering you guys, asking, what exactly are you going to produce for customer-facing applications of those modules that you are going to implement? Because the finance module talks about it as well as customer-facing. Lastly, in the rollout of all of these functions, where is the education of the ratepayer going to take place? Who is handling that? And how do I get a hold of that individual to be sure that we have our concerns addressed? Not a public comment. This is an agenda item. So I think there's.
It's public comment time for the agenda, though.
Right, but we didn't specifically agendize that Tyler discussion, and a lot of that was covered in
Customer
finance committee.
service.
But we will have an outreach plan. We have an internal education plan because we have to train up our staff, not just customer service and finance staff on this implementation. And then to the extent it impacts customers, we'll roll out a public outreach on that as well.
Okay, so do I interact with Kelly or Kelly for customer outreach?
I guess it depends on what the specific question is. But I think
Specifically, is what are the customer facing outputs produced by the finance modules and the modules that you are going to be implementing, because I looked at those and they don't say anything on the website. It refers you back to the agency using it for additional information about what those things are.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's
I'm dead stop.
mostly internal processes that are included in those modules. So we can, yeah, we can reach out and respond.
It would seem to me that we got kind of a disconnect here. I mean, if you have complex issues and questions like that, it seemed to me that you would write those down, get them to the proper staff member before committee hearing, and then
They have emails.
then the general manager will direct the staff to do the work.
They have emails, and I tried to do it by saying, I want to stay out of your hair. I'm going to look into it myself, get as much answered as possible. But the first thing the website says, if you're a citizen facing, ask the agency. So I tried to do that.
Yeah, and I appreciate the effort. Are you currently a customer?
Yes, of course. I wouldn't be here otherwise.
Okay.
You know, I'm one of those 5,900 cubic feet customers that gets hit at the 30. That's why I have some issues about the 15 and the 30.
We'll get back to you on that
Thank you.
question.
All right, any other public comments here or outside this room? Anybody on a cell phone want to make an inquiry?
I would have forgotten.
Huh?
Never heard.
Would've
Yep,
forgotten.
You would have forgotten it? Do you need roadside assistance?
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kelly, you're a
That's very
star.
good progress.
Thanks a lot, Kelly. All right, moving on. We have, this says that Kelly Gerkensmeyer is going to talk to us.
Yeah, I'll give a brief introduction here and then I'll turn it over to Kelly.
Do we want to take a break for this or?
Yeah.
We can while he's sitting up.
Sure.
This is not going to be a short little deal.
This is not going to be a short one.
Yeah.
And you're not going to want to interrupt the flow of it. once we
Yes,
finish.
once it's,
Well, but I also encourage anybody that's online, this is the most important issue facing Calaveras County Water District currently. And I hope that you guys stay online and educate yourselves on this.
And has been for the last 20 years and for the next at least 8.
this issue of the hydropower development on the North Fork of the North Ford of Stanislaus is extremely important to the district and to the county. So Kelly has done a great job of putting together the historical aspects of this, and you're gonna like this. Go ahead, Kelly.
Yeah, let me do a
Oh.
real quick intro here. This was our plan was while Kelly was setting up the computer, I had an intro speech, but he's already set up. But I will just briefly introduce this item. Some of you saw this. We gave a similar presentation to the NCPA commissioners last month. This is a modified version of that, so don't worry, you're not seeing the same presentation twice. You'll recognize some of it, but there's a whole added portion of it where we address the creation of Utica and that era. The presentation we gave to the commissioners kind of ended in 1989 at project operation, and so we carry it forward a little bit further. But that's sort of was the inception of this, was giving that presentation to NCPA, and then just the acknowledgement. I think that we should share it with our board and our public as well. And then we're also giving this presentation to the Union Public Utilities District. That presentation actually will be this evening. So this will be the first of 2 times today we do this. And then next week at the City of Angels Camps Council meeting, we'll be giving the same presentation next week as well. And it's really, I think as you'll see here, just how critical those relationships were, especially during the Utica, in the mid-90s during the formation of Utica. And so our part of our effort here is to make sure that we're establishing a strong relationships with those agencies and a level of trust with those agencies, because it's about to get harder for all of us as Utica's projects go through relicensing, our projects go through relicensing. There's a lot at stake for Calaveras County, and there's a lot of work ahead, and we want to make sure, as we were with those agencies in the 90s, that we're working together. All of us have the same goal of serving the same communities and doing what's best for Calaveras County. And so we're really working hard to strengthen those relationships now and then carry that forward through relicensing. And then with that, take it away, Kevin.
It's being presented where tonight?
At
UPUD.
Okay,
and then the City of Angels on Tuesday.
gotcha. Thank you.
So, thank you very much. It's hard for me to express what an honor this is to even just communicate this project and the history of CCWD. I go down these rabbit holes where I just find more information and then trying to condense it all to a presentation that doesn't put everyone to sleep, even though I don't think it would put everyone to sleep, because it's so fascinating and the history is so rich. But it's just really an honor to be able to present this. And so here we go. So the North Fork Stanislaus River Hydroelectric Development Project. Every time I say the whole thing, it almost stumps me up, because that's quite the project. It's very long to say. But this monumental achievement truly was the result of decades of vision, perseverance, dedication, and hard work from a very small water agency that took on this monumental financial risk to develop the project. It was driven by a committed few willing to invest in our future and provide a robust foundation for our community's prosperity and well-being for generations. The story really starts at Clark's Flat. Originally settled in 1850, Clark's Flat remained a remote area until its present development as the Coyerville Power Plant site. While working with the survey crew to locate the Stanislaus River Powerhouse, the Clark family decided to settle there in 1906. The nearest neighbor to the Clarks was Isaac T. Coyer, who had the Coyer Quartz Mine. After the Hunter's Reservoir was built in 1927, a new dam, Spicer, was being built up on Highland Creek and completed in 1929. A 1927 report initiated because of that project proposed a powerhouse designated as the Coyerville Project, which would use water from the flume system right there at Darby Knob. And when I found this little tidbit of information that this was really contemplated even back then, it just blew my mind. Fast forward to 1945, California was going significant changes in regards to water. On the heels of World War II, the state was faced with many water challenges, such as post-war growth and urbanization, agricultural expansion, droughts and water security, and water rights regulations. Thus, the California Water Resources Control Board was created to improve statewide management of its water resources. It was the late Senator Jesse Mayo of Angels Camp who encouraged the county to take steps to protect its water rights before they could be claimed by a distant city or the government. During those years, there was certainly changes happening right here in Calaveras County regarding its water. When Emma Rose, who owned half of the Utica Mining Company, died in 1946, the company was sold to PG&E. That same year, the Union Public Utility District was formed on July 26 as an independent special district formed to provide agricultural and domestic water services. It's apparent that the citizens of Calaveras County were concerned with the current water issues in the state, and in November of 1946, by an overwhelming majority, 93% to be exact, the voters of Calaveras County created the Calaveras County Water District, a special district that was formed for the sole purpose of preserving, protecting, and enhancing its natural water resources and to develop its hydroelectric power capabilities. Soon after the formation of the district, planning began for the development of the water resources of Calaveras County. CCWD directors and staff were trailblazers, securing the county's water rights while innovatively planning future hydropower projects. The earliest water right application for the North Fork Stanislaus River project was filed on March 24th, 1947, and additional applications in 1949 and 1959. During the 1950s, CCWD really started to conceptualize this project. George Huberty, a fifth-generation Calaveras County resident and longtime CCWD general counsel, was instrumental in this project. He successfully negotiated a settlement with East Bay Mud, generating $2 million and preserving water rights in Calaveras County. In addition, Mr. Huberty negotiated the crucial property easements, which were the backbone of the North Fork hydropower project. With a generation of funds, secured water rights, and appropriate easements, CCWD was able to move forward with project planning. The district engaged Tudor Engineering to prepare a comprehensive water development plan for the Calaveras County water resources. In 1959, preliminary reports and plans were submitted demonstrating the plan's feasibility. Not only hydropower, but the plan really emphasized agricultural water throughout Calaveras County. You can kind of see it here. It's kind of dark, and I'll show you again in some later slides, but there was really a plan to move some of the Stanislaus water all throughout the county, all through the Calaveras watershed as well. So, in August of 1961, Tudor Engineering submitted the final feasibility report and plan for the Calaveras County Water Resources Development. The plan was a multi-purpose plan aiming to expand the county's agricultural area, develop recreational facilities, and supply adequate domestic water services. The plan's success, however, was dependent upon hydropower development and the revenues derived from the sale of the power. And again, I absolutely love this map as well, because this was one of the first concepts. There was two different phases. And really just to see the differences of what was proposed and what we have today is remarkable. Of course, there was a proposal of 7 dams and reservoirs, 3 different river diversions, 4 powerhouses, and 5 tunnels. And what's ironic is what we have today is actually phase A of this original plan, because there was other plans as we go through the history as well, but what we really ended up with was somewhat the original plan, phase A of the original plan. In September of 1963, CCWD filed for the first power license with the Federal Power Commission. Concurrently, TCWD in Tuolumne County filed an application opposing ours. During those years, TCWD, OID, SSJID all opposed the North Fork Stanislaus developments, while Stockton East and the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation opposed the Calaveras River projects. Their opposition stemmed from plans to divert and develop these waters for their own use. For example, TCWD wanted to divert the North Fork stand down the Middle Fork. And so we might not even be here. I might not even be here presenting to you if that would have happened. So in 1963, the Water Rights Board did rule in our favor on all applications for the water from the North Fork stand. That decision, however, was appealed and CCWD was sued by TCWD. And really quick, just so we know, TCWD was actually TCWD2. It was a weird small district in Tuolumne County back in the day. It's no longer, but so it's really technically TCWD2. But I just felt weird saying the 2 all the time, but I feel like I should clear that up. So in August of 1965, the Water Board again ruled in our favor. And by November of 1965, TCWD entered into an agreement with us and withdrew its objections and urged the FPC to grant the license to CCWD, which it finally did in 1966. Throughout the inception of the project, PG&E continually expressed its interest in the purchase of the entire hydroelectric power output of the project. However, PG&E changed its position with respect to any power purchase agreements in the mid-60s. CCWD began discussions in search of other power purchase options. So discussions were again held with PG&E. However, we started discussing now with SMUD, Tridam, and Dow Chemicals. In 1975, the district took on the effort of amending their application for the FPC, now called FERC, which required the preparation of an environmental impact report to comply with these new laws. Reports that were not required earlier on. So this was a whole new, to amend that license, now we had to do environmental impact reports. The conclusion was a revised application filed with FERC in 1975. And here I'm just going to illustrate some of the things that were contemplated in those new environmental impact reports. Obviously, these revisions are not what was built, but I just love to think about the different concepts and try to imagine them. So for any of you who are familiar with Spicer Reservoir, currently it's 189,000 acre feet. To avoid flooding Gabbett Meadow at the end of Spicer, it was contemplated to reduce Spicer Reservoir's capacity to 52,000 acre feet, which would have led to the need to increase Union and Utica Reservoir to 66,000 acre feet. Combined right now, it's less than 6. And so when I was up there a couple of weeks ago, I was looking at, because basically what that would do with Union Reservoir, it would raise Union Reservoir 10 feet and Utica Reservoir 41 feet. So as I was camping at Union the other day, I was trying to look at 10 feet and just try to picture it, you know, what this would look like. And it's kind of hard to imagine. Many of those great camping islands would be underwater, but there would probably be some other good camping islands too. A lot more shoreline. Excuse me. And constructing and increasing the board's reservoir to 200,000 acre feet. Of course, these were just concepts and never constructed. Also note that some of what was contemplated for agricultural use in the Calaveras watershed. So in this map, it's kind of cut off, but you can see where there was that contemplation of diverting over, you know, Scott's Reservoir, over through Mountain Ranch and Sheep Ranch. That was all contemplated throughout several of these plans. CCWD continued to diligently pursue obtaining a power purchaser, especially.
Can you go back to the last map? Is that Board's reservoir the contemplated Board's reservoir was ever built, right?
No, it was never built. I think it was going to be called Ramses too at some point. It would have been right where Board's Crossing is.
Okay.
There was a reservoir there for a little while, just for a short period of time.
Oh, really?
Well, when the
landslide? Yeah. Right. Yeah, and the reason why those were going to be built, and especially at that size, was because of the lower capacity up country. And so, of course, that's not what ended up happening, but to, you know, generate the same amount of power they're going to have.
How far below Board's Reservoir is McKay's right now? I mean, approximately from Board's Crossing Road, approximately how many miles downstream?
I think it's about it's probably about 8 to 10 river miles from Board's Crossing to the, to the back end of McKay's.
It is interesting that they did we have a Beaver Creek diversion at McKay's, and they were contemplating a Beaver Creek diversion at Boards. That's what I saw there.
And even in some of the earlier plans, there was a contemplation of 2 Beaver Creek diversions. It's again to see all the differences in the plans, and I find new stuff all the time. Like I kind of stumbled on these particular maps almost by accident, and when I did, it was like this gem. Look at this.
Oh,
so it's really it's fascinating. And also another tunnel. If you see right above that, they were going to move the tunnel, that particular one, on the right side. On the Tuolumne side of the stand. So very robust plans back in the day. And we had the plans, but we still needed someone to buy this power. So we continued to pursue obtaining the power purchase. Oh, I already told you that about Dow and SMUD. So discussions with Dow terminated in October of 1976 and then with SMUD in 1977. At that same time, we started having discussions with NCPA. And by June 2nd of 1977, we had an agreement with NCPA to purchase the power. With the final environmental impact report completed in April of 1978 and a notice of determination filed as a draft EIR of CCWD's water supply master plan, CCWD presented a bond measure to the voters of Calaveras County in an attempt to finance the project. After the first bond attempt failed by 213 votes, the second bond election for financing the project was successful for CCWD with a yes vote of 4,536 and a no vote of 2,902. After several decades of preliminary work, CCWD finally received the FERC license in February of 1982 to construct the North Fork Stanislaus hydroelectric project. This feels like a really long time coming for me, and all I did was research the historical information and create this presentation. But when we got this license, I was 4 years old. But it's funny on this slide, I feel like I was almost part of all that, because with the presentation, going through the history, it's like, oh, we got the license. But this was a huge deal. It took a lot of hard work to have this license issued to CCWD. And in 1985, NCPA secured the financing for the project and assumed the responsibilities as construction management for the project. Construction was from 1985 to 1989, and this is another topic that I can just spend all day talking about. It's so amazing to see what was taking place in our backyard simultaneously along the Stanislaus River over those 4 years. It's mind-blowing. And in some of the videos you're about to see, I have the voice cut out, but our own Larry Diamond was the one narrating a lot of these videos, pre-construction, during construction.
He was the engineer at McKay's.
Yeah, he was all.
He came here with the engineering company.
Yeah,
stayed.
And he worked for Sierra Constructors, who was the contractor. But a lot of all the pre-work, basically, when we were looking at Coyerville, and he's talking about Coyerville and where the tail race is going to go, the site. It's Larry Diamond talking.
He was more than just McKay's. He worked
everywhere
on the whole project, and I talked to him about it recently, and he remembers meticulously documenting it. And the project became known nationally for this new, kind of approach to documenting construction with video and audio recordings that he spent a ton of time not only making the recordings, but editing and using the audio and video as a way to submit updates. And that became a new practice at the time for engineering, that they got a lot of attention for that in the engineering industry.
It's funny because it's a big deal now, but it hasn't been for the last few decades.
Right.
But now almost every construction site is documented like that. But it was funny back in the day when I first started here, when we were still discussing all these things, and a lot with the Hydropower and everything. It's like, we were back in the old building with containers full of documents. We didn't have anything stored online. And Larry Diamond would be, I know exactly what that is.
Well, and one of the things Larry was very concerned about when I talked to him recently is he said, hey, all those tapes, we digitized it or we put them on CDs, 20 years ago or whatever it was, but those CDs aren't going to last forever. Are you guys protecting that? And I told him Kelly's already working on, they're all going to end up on a server, but backed up with multiple backup. He was very relieved we're not losing track of those videos.
Had you talked to Kelly about that before you said that, or?
Yeah, we actually,
we are.
it was already a work in process when I talked to Larry about that.
And working with Dylan with IT has been super helpful. We are starting to get this all organized. We are seeing a loss in some of the quality of it. And in some ways, I really like that because it's got that 80s camcorder feel from when I was a kid. So there's some nostalgia there. I kind of like the lower quality.
It wasn't like this. It was like
yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Kelly, you were only 4, is that right?
Oh, not during 85, 89. I was a little older. When we got the license, I was 4. Here, I was, 7th grade or so. No, not even, right around there. Yeah.
One of my best friends from high school is a surveyor, or had spent his whole career as a surveyor. He'd be picked up by a helicopter. He worked for a decade on this project. He'd be at his house. They could land a helicopter there. He'd get in, and he'd spend the whole day getting in and out of that helicopter on the side of hills, where they would have one of the skids would pull up. He'd be able to get out and do, and then he'd come back and pick him up. But one of the things he told me about McKay's is as the crane brought in each new block to build the dam, he was the guy helping bring it down and making sure that that the points of the block were in the right place, and then they move on to another block. But he just did that for, I think, 10 years, doing that sort of stuff. But very interesting. His life changed quite a bit, and surveying is pretty boring.
Yeah.
Until that period of time.
I love to hear stories like that. Thank you for sharing, because every time I talk about this project in the community, I hear stories like that. This project really, I think, I almost want to say it helped create Calaveras County to what it is today. It's not just on the Highway 4 corridor. I know so many people that came here because of this project. So many of my dad's friends worked on the project. I heard stories after work when they were hanging out, having a few beverages, listening to the concrete guys and the rebar guys and all the stuff. Yeah, I heard about it. It was everywhere. So many of my friends, dear friends that I still have today, moved here. Their families moved here because of it. So thank you. I love stories like that, because I think the fingers of this project goes out so far. So here's some of that great old footage. This is the survey footage of the McKay's Dam site before it was McKay's, even before some of the trees were removed. There's no roads. Right there is where the dam would be. At the McKay's Dam site, the upper Utica ditch traversed the right abutment of the future dam. And this particular alignment interfered with the McKay's Dam. So therefore, a temporary diversion tunnel was constructed. The diversion tunnel was excavated by drilling and blasting methods. It was about 6.5 feet wide, 6 feet tall, just over 900 feet long. The tunnel was successfully plugged in September 1989, and the use of the upper ditch flume was, between the Utica Diversion Dam and the Mill Creek was discontinued. And so this, to me, is really remarkable. Before we could even really start building the dam, we had to divert this water supply and divert the river. So there was two temporary tunnels built just so we could start the dam. And at this point too, there's barely really roads going in there. A lot of the roads had to come from big trees, but the traditional road wasn't really quite completed. So there you go. Now in this picture here, you see it going through that diversion. And that took almost 2 years just to do that. And then there's the upper and lower tunnels were excavated by tunnel boring machines. Also TBM throughout a lot of the reports, it's just a TBM. The tunnel machine was shipped on 15 truckloads over a period of 8 days in December of 1985. The machine assembly took just over 2 weeks to complete. The TBM worked 3 shifts per day, 5 days a week, with a single shift on Saturdays for maintenance. The best day's performance in the upper tunnel was 216 feet and 16 working hour shift. The lower tunnel was completed in 1986 and backed out of the tunnel under its own power in 5 days. So that lower tunnel took 5 days to back that thing out of there. On the completion, the machine was disassembled and certain components were moved up to the North Fork tunnel site. So I'm showing you these 2 sections, and it's mainly about the tunnels and it's mainly about McKay's. But when you start looking at the timestamps of all this stuff, this wasn't the only thing going on. There was significant work happening up at Spicer, significant work happening at the diversion dam, work starting over at Beaver Creek. So we call this one project, but it was just so many projects in one and going on at the same time at different elevations in the snow. So
during your research, have you been able to identify what those big pieces of equipment that are still laying on the ground above Spicer?
I never seen the concrete buckets. I know that because I've camped right by there. So some of those are just the concrete buckets to move the concrete. One thing that was really cool that I found out about Spicer was they use a whole different technology of they almost use like a modified style, like paving machine with a conveyor belt to when they faced it with concrete. So spanning a total of 35 miles, this project as it is today encompasses 13 miles of tunnels, 4 dams, 2 powerhouses, generating nearly 260 megawatts of power. The project travels along steep terrain, beginning at an elevation of 6,700 feet in the North Fork diversion, while ultimately ending at the Coyerville power plant at just over 1,000 feet. The fact that all these projects were being built at the same time it blows my mind. At one time, I think there was 600 people working per day on this project, 600 people a day.
There's a monument above on Highlands Creek where it comes into Spicer. where there's a footbridge.
Yes,
Have you ever been to that?
Yes.
To that monument?
Yeah.
Or it talks all about NC, it's about a paragraph
Yeah.
of wording, but talks in the middle of nowhere. I mean, hard to get there, but it's it's a story about NCPA and CCWD.
yeah, and that was part of the environmental parts, because I believe there was other trails before that went through Gavin's Meadows, so, part of the project was to divert that and, allow for the recreation. It's a great bridge. It got really messed up the year before last year with that big snow, it ripped the railing
Big
off.
I-beams, I mean, huge I-beams across that.
Right. No, it's an impressive bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful back there. Absolutely love it. So after decades of talk, planning, permitting, and construction, the dedication ceremonies were held on July 27th, 1990. Over 300 people attended the ceremonies held at the new Spicer Meadow Reservoir, including some who had worked on the project for over 20 years.
Wow.
Most of the dedication speakers commented on the fact that the construction of the large, complicated project was completed on time and under budget. As you can see there, we have the newly appointed Assistant General Manager, Larry Diamond, there on the far left, Linda O'Keefe and Steve Felty, all crucial folks in this project. Most of the attendees present agreed wholeheartedly that the project was a tribute to perseverance. And again, here's some of the other board members at the time, like Dennis Dooley, Dave Silvera, okay. Ray Nielsen, and Dick Winkle. Now I have found something, and this is what Larry told me, that they unofficially renamed the Coyerville Tunnel the Ray Nielsen Tunnel, but I don't think it's official. I think it's unofficial, but.
He's done a lot for San Andreas.
Yeah.
So fast forward just a few years, and it was time to tackle the next challenge. In December of 1993, PG&E filed its application for the Angels Utica project. Shortly after that, NCPA filed a competing application for the project as well. CCWD and a group of community members from Murphy's and Angels Camp objected to an outside agency taking control of long-held water rights and substantially reducing the flows from the Stanislaus River. Thus began the CCWD and NCPA negotiations of 1994. And in this part of the presentation, I felt it would be better to take you back in time and to hear it for yourself. So we're gonna go back in time a little bit here. Here's Steve Felty and Merle Luckin.
That hasn't changed.
far more power with the same amount of water by running it into Collier River Powerhouse, and that appears to be the crux of it.
I think that's exactly it. And so you got those two opposing views, Merle, and our efforts are looking to see if there's something that can satisfy all parties. That may not occur.
Yes.
But at least we want to explore that.
Okay. So if NCPA is successful in their bid, then for all intent and purposes, Utica Powerhouse and Angels Powerhouse become obsolete.
Well, just Angels.
Just Angels.
Yeah.
Uticas would still be in use.
That's right.
Okay, fine.
Murphy still has value, but Angels does not. Now, of course, with that less flow, the creek here also has substantially less flow.
Sure, sure. Where is CCWD and NCPA vis-a-vis their cooperative agreement with PG&E?
Certainly the local press has covered a lot of it. We've had a love-hate relationship with NCPA. We worked cooperatively on the Stanislaus project, and we were moving in a cooperative effort on the Utica system, and we split on that because of differences with regard to the flows in Angels Creek. After a considerable amount of time and struggling and an argument between the two entities, we finally come to a compromise agreement wherein there will be some flows that are left available to us and the county within the Angels Utica system. We've developed an agreement with that, and that agreement has now been approved by both the CCWD board and the NCPA commission. So we now have an agreement that we're sharing the benefits of the Utica system. Reasonable, appropriate flows are being reserved to us, and we can move forward. So the next step then is, can we now go work out an agreement with PG&E to buy that system and put it to use? The pact that we have with NCPA says we agree on these terms, and now Calveras, you can go and negotiate with NCPA and see if you can acquire it. And if you can, our pact stays together. If you can't, then we have to go back and look at that.
Okay, so NCPA has turned that part of the negotiation over to CCWD.
Yes, they have.
And is there a reason for that?
Because we're taking the majority of the Utica system.
I got you.
It's reasonable.
Okay.
The way that the agreement sets up with us and NCPA is they will take over the operation of the upper reservoirs, Utica, Union, and Alpine. And we'll take everything over from basically Hunter's Dam down. So basically operating system of Utica is going to be taken over by us. So now we've started discussion with PG&E. And PG&E has said and publicly said that they wish to sell the Utica system. It is no longer economical in their operation scheme. So they want to get rid of it. It's a small unit. It's a reasonably expensive unit for them to operate. The reason it's attractive to us, it's a water supply. Otherwise, for pure power purposes, we would not be interested in it either. So we've started negotiation with PG&E. We're keeping NCPA involved in that for information purposes to make sure that they're there.
If it's no longer all that profitable for PG&E to operate the, let's say, Angels Camp powerhouse, how is it that CCWD and NCPA have decided that they'll continue to operate it?
Well, we'll operate it such that we're looking to develop that next resource, the water. You know, if we're successful, that brings the gold back. If we're not successful, we're trying to look at it that we at least break even on it.
I got you.
And I think that's a reasonable. Our objective, our purpose in life is to serve water to Calveras County. That's what we're here for. So if we're successful in that, we'll be doing a very good job. If we're not successful, at least at this stage, we're protecting that resource so it's available to us tomorrow or the next day. And as long as we can protect that resource, I think we're doing a very good job.
Yeah, I feel like I can't even really talk about the North Fork project without talking about Steve Felty and his involvement in it. He was a CCWD general manager from 1974 to 1996. During those years, Steve experienced tremendous growth, going from 12 employees at CCWD to 45. His most significant accomplishments were the hydroelectric projects, the new Hogan Power Plant, and of course the North Fork Stanislaus project. After the North Fork project was in place, CCWD, with Steve's efforts, proceeded forward with the purchase of the Angels Utica project from PG&E. Soft-spoken and often called the quiet giant, he was the driving force in the development of one of the last big hydroelectric projects developed in the United States. Thankfully, we're still in close contact with Steve. I believe Michael had a recent conversation with him, even as of today. And, you know, he's just a wealth of knowledge and really helpful. And to be honest, the first time I met him, I thought I was kind of meeting like a rock star because all this work that I've done and all the times I see his names on signatures on contracts and all this stuff, it's remarkable. So
You were in awe.
I was, absolutely.
Did you get his autograph?
I have tons of files with his autograph.
Oh, no.
No, just stop. So after successful negotiations between CCWD and NCPA, CCWD purchased the Utica system, the Utica Angel system from PG&E. Shortly after, CCWD, UPUD, and the City of Angels organized the Utica Power Authority at the time, or UPA, in 1995 and became recognized by the state in 1996.
Who financed it?
I'm gonna get to that in 1 second. You're gonna like this. You're gonna like this.
Okay.
And in 1997, the assets and the rights for the PG&E Utica system were all conveyed to UPA. So let's hear a little bit about the financing. And this time I'm going to let a longtime board member, Dwayne Onito from UPUD, tell us all about the financing of the project.
Okay, it's the Utica Power Authority. It's composed of 2 members from Union Public Utility District and Murphy's, and the City of Angels and CCWD, a 6-member board, and that meets once a month and basically controls the 50 more or less cubic feet of water that is now running down Angels Creek. What we're looking at here is the financial obligations of the Utica Power Authority. Originally, the Calaveras County Water District did considerable work, pre-work on this, and spent $640,000 in early negotiations with NCPA and whatnot, and had spent that in staff time. When UPA arrived on the scene, this money was already spent. Okay. And CCWD loaned UPA $360,000 to make this a $1 million loan, which is interest-free for 5 years. Okay. They then... And CCWD's interest in doing that, obviously, is that they had become a partner with the rest of the 11 entities, or 10 other entities. The 2 other entities, Angel... Excuse me, 2 other entities. I'm thinking about the 11 entities that approved. Excuse me, the 2 other entities, Angels Camp, City of Angels, if you will, and UPUD, right? Right. Okay, so they were a partner in this operation, so naturally, they had a fiscal interest in it anyway. They had the funds. Why not make the loan and you're solvent? And also, CCWD's charter, and the reason it was created was to protect water resources in Calaveras County. Okay. And certainly this is a valuable asset to Calaveras County. Okay. So let's go back for just a second and visit with our viewers about what the consequences would have been had UPA not been formed. Let's pretend now that NCPA, in the absence of any entity like UPA, went ahead, made the agreement to buy PG&E, buy the powerhouse here. They would have shut it down. What would have happened then? The NCPA proposal said that they would shut both powerhouses, and that the only water that was coming this way, meaning not going through Collierville, but coming into these creeks, would be enough water for UPUD, Union Public Utility District and Murphy's, enough water for Angels, plus 10 cubic feet per second, which they would run down the creek at all times. Both powerhouses would be shut. There would be no need, they would have to maintain the Angels diversion to supply Angels Camp with water. But basically the water, other than what Angels needed, would be going down past the diversion. And in the daytime, they would run 25 cubic feet per second through Murphy's and right on down the creek. The project gets in trouble for whatever reason, drought, disasters, power plants blow up, whatever happens, then the 3 entities, the City of Angels, UPUD, and CCWD will all have to contribute to the extra cost. And The City of Angels will have to bear 1/3 of it. UPUD will have to bear 1/3 of it. CCWD will have to bear 1/3 of it.
Okay.
CCWD
That's the
is in a
issue.
particular
That was the
quandary
issue.
because since Prop 13, they can't raise taxes for everybody in the county, right? So the people that they have to collect that from are going to be their rate users if they had to come up with extra cash. And so that people in, Valley Springs or Copperopolis or whatever, somehow CCWD will have to make up that extra money.
Yeah.
Therein lies the problem.
Therein lies the problem. And we know, we wouldn't even be able to do that. So, yeah. So just want to tie it back. He said a few things in there about why we were created. And I just want to remind everybody why we were created. And this project is an example of that. All these projects are. So, since CCWD's creation in 1946 by the citizens of Calaveras County, we have remained steadfast in our commitment to our original mission to preserve, protect, and enhance our natural water resources. This mission continues to guide every decision we make, ensuring that we serve our community with the same dedication and care that inspired our creation. It's important to recognize that the economic impact of the North Fork project and the Angels Utica projects on our community are almost unquantifiable. These projects are our identity. They are who we are as a community. Together, we've created something that truly defines us and will continue to benefit our community for generations to come. I do have one more little video that I think is compelling, again, from Dwayne Onito, and this is from one of the rate hearings, not the rate hearings, but the hearings between NCPA and CCWD and several of the concerned citizens with the issue. This is while we were still negotiating. At that point, both parties, CCWD and NCPA, had their bids in, basically ready for the license, and this kind of tells a story, I think, about how the folks of Calaveras County, how they feel about their water. So with that.
Dwayne O'Neill, Union Public Utility District, and I would like to reference my remarks to the letter that Dennis Dooley from Calaveras County Water District has given to the commissioners. It is my concern that the commission understand how strongly people of Calaveras County feel about this particular project and his comments regarding the public relations and the feeling in the community. When the Utica Mining Company in the 1860s was running the Angels Camp mine, and they ran out of water, they went to the Stanislaus to provide that water. The Carson Hill Gold Mine, which was 3 miles south of the Angels Camp, also was in on the project, and they moved the water that we are currently arguing about to those mines to produce, for use in their production. As time went on, everybody along those ditches began to use the water and considered it theirs, whether it was or it was not. In 1941, when the Carson Hill Gold Mine closed and the Utica mine closed, the Utica company said, well, since the mines are not running, we're going to shut this water off. And they did so. And I am not concerned with the Angels campsite, but from Carson Hill, my grandfather who lived there went to the Carson Hill school and he got the American flag and his rifle and came up the ditch talking to everybody along the way. And he said, we got to go turn that water on. And he happened to stop in Vallecito and pick up a guy by the name of Mo Sanders, who was about 65 years old. And Mr. Sanders said, well, I don't know if I can make that walk or not, but I'll go with you as far as I can. And by the time we got to the diversion point, there was maybe 30 of them. And they jumped in and opened the ditch, turned the water back to Carson Hill. The ditch tender came along, an old guy about 60 years old, and said, you can't do that, I'm turning that water back on. And nobody wanted to shoot this guy, he couldn't turn the water, right? So Mo Sanders said, you're not, 65, he said, I'm the oldest guy here, and you're not turning that on. The ditch tender said, the hell I'm not, and started to turn the water. Mo Sanders got in the ditch, punched him out, knocked him down, and said, get the hell out of the ditch. The water ran. At that point, Calaveras Water Users Association, the forerunner of UPUD, started a lawsuit against the Utica company. 12 years that lawsuit went on. Nobody tended the ditches, they would have all gone to ruin. A large landowner in UPUD, Tony Rolla got his brother, Virgil Rolla, to fight the case for UPUD for 12 years for not one red cent. While that lawsuit goes on, every spring, it started at Carson Hill, every property owner got out, cleaned their ditch, and moved right on up to Murphy's. The Carson Hill people did it to Vallecito, Douglas Flat, the Virgin. After 12 years of settlement was reached, and you know it as the Emerald Rose Estate or the Hobart Agreement that took place. I tell you this story to illustrate how strong people in Calaveras County feel about their water. And I will point out to you that Tony Rolla's son still runs his ranch, that Jim Sanders, Moses' grandson, still owns his property in Vallecito, and Virgil Rolla, Wattasu's grandson, is PUD's counsel. I would think that you consider very seriously how much this water means to the citizens of Calaveras County. Thank you.
So believe it or not, that was the improved sound. The original sound was a lot of background noise. It was in the Native Sons Hall. They didn't have a nice microphone in front of them. It was just kind of ambient. And when you turn it up at volume for us to hear it, it sounded like, it was bad.
I think the point came through though. That's kind of a mic drop moment for Dwayne, I think. That.
Yeah. So I removed the background noise and started doing subtitles, but the subtitles gave you your own issues because now you're trying to hear it and you're trying to see it. So I apologize that it was a little hard to hear, but
His emotion started coming out.
yeah.
Just want to point out, I would have cut him off at 3 minutes.
Good observation. I think that was 4
Even after
minutes.
that story, that's brave.
That was 4 minutes and 5 seconds. You're right. He did push it.
I forget what project, but we used to have a couple of guys from Angels. Maybe it was at the UPA. They would always threaten us with their rifles. Yeah, they did. They all had they thought they had riparian rights, but not understanding that, hey, you've got air flow rights. You don't have the release flow rights. You know, so that when that became a discussion, they'd talk about their rifles, say, "Come on out." I wish I could remember when.
We certainly don't condone any violence like that, but when I hear that, I hear just how much this water, what it does mean to us, and as we go to this tonight in the City of Angels, I think it's good to develop those relationships, and I think those relationships have really flourished in the past, and they can again. And I think that's really our objective. I mean, we've got fantastic neighbors with all these other water districts, and we should all support each other.
And one of the things is the fact you're going to be dealing with newer council members out of Angels Camp because you don't have any of that old history, right? So that's going to be a positive thing.
Yeah, that's a different dynamic. I mean, Dwayne was on the UPD board until just a few years ago, and he'll be there tonight, actually. And some of the other board members have been there there's been a lot of continuity on that board as opposed to the council where it tends to be a lot more turnover.
Well, I mean, looking back, it was an amazing thing that happened, but the problem with it was they never valued the water. It was always subsidizing their water rates for Angels Camp and Murphy's. And they would never put the water rates even with the price of power, which was always my contention. It's like, look, this is what it's worth. This is what you should be paying if you're taking, because they were asking us for money, but in the end, I mean, it's an amazing thing that we did preserve that, even though it was, kind of a bad three-legged deal. It was a great thing for the county, and it's always been, if we can develop that water, farther outside of that ditch, a mile out in each direction, it'll have a huge economic impact, far outweighs the hydroelectric possibility. I'm talking about the Utica project.
Right, and I think that's what we have to remember is, keeping that water here for our county, and that's where, even if it's.
Well, even just the path, the distribution, all the working parts to it,
Yeah, and I think one of the things when I thought it was great that Dwayne acknowledged that CCWD is in a different position because we don't have customers on that system, and so that puts, I think the term he used was a particular quandary or something along those lines. But keep in mind, that was, Prop 218 was brand new at that time. And I don't think water agencies had yet really realized the significance of it. And now what we know is we can't, even if we were still a member of that JPA, we can't justify spending money on a system that isn't related to delivering water to our customers. So we would not even have that option available to us. It's just so CCWD was just in a different position than the other member agencies. And, I think the way it played out, though, I think to your point, Director Davidson, these agencies got together and it was a remarkable achievement, to take on NCPA, take on PG&E and preserve that water, preserve local control over that water. And, we're still, I think, extremely grateful that we pulled that off back then. And it's our, I think our responsibility now to make sure we make the most of it.
Here, here. And I mean, that's not the big issue. The big issue, is relicensing the North Fork project. And I mean, I know they have their licensing and everything to deal with, but it's going to be a monumental task, and it's definitely something to look forward to. Hopefully the videotapes will be preserved better for.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, so that's the huge effort that we are currently, undertaking is the relicensing of the project, which will have probably just as significant of an impact on Calaveras County in the next license term as it did during this license term. And that's a responsibility we take very
I
seriously.
think it's important to notice also that all the income, I believe all the money that that was put in to the Utica project was money that was generated from the original sale or lease or whatever you want to call it from the North Fork project. That was North Fork money that went in to the Utica. I'm almost certain it was exclusively.
That's right. And it was paid back. The Utica paid
You're
the loan
welcome.
back to CCWD. No, it was paid back.
You're welcome.
But you're right. It came from the Norfolk Development Fund, which was the upfront lump sum that CCWD received on the Norfolk project. And then it was repaid within that 5-year time frame. So it was a no interest loan to Utica. But it wouldn't have happened without it.
Very good.
Good job, Kelly.
Any other questions?
Oh, no.
Good job,
Wonderful,
Kelly.
wonderful, wonderful,
nice.
Kelly. Thank you so much.
All right.
Tonight.
Have we come up with a total income over the course of the license? The upfront money, what did they give? $15 million upfront? And it'd be interesting not just to know the dollar amount, but to know the value of the dollar amount today.
Sure. Yeah, we can do that.
I mean, because I believe we got 15 or 18 million up front,
Around there, yeah.
and then it was an annual payment over the last 30 years or so. And it would just be nice to know historically what it preserved. And I mean, even, if you go to the economic, it'd be interesting to know, the unemployment rate back in those days, the population. It would really be cool to get an idea what the populations were in Arnold and Murphy's, and just the economics of it all. Because, the economic impact, I mean, Calaveras Cement was probably rolling hard, supplying all that, truck drivers, everybody, loggers, everybody that participated in that. I mean, it had to be just a huge boom time.
And
And it could occur again here. I mean, if we do this right, there's going to be modifications, and that's going to be our jobs to try to ensure that we improve our economy and our future with this relicensing.
Yeah, and another portion that I want to work on with this that I've started to compile is kind of what we did with some of that money at the beginning. I mean, it did really allow us to upgrade several of our facilities. In the early 90s, we didn't have the Hunter's Water Treatment Plant. Wasn't what it was, nor was Jenny Lind, nor was West Point, and we utilized it in a lot of good ways. And
I'd like to hear that too.
Yeah. And Jeff did mention the workforce, because Calaveras County didn't have the workforce that built it. And so where did those people come from? you know?
It did, a lot was from here as well. I mean, they came from out, but they also became, locals, so many people
Yeah,
moved here
yeah.
because of that.
Uh-huh.
And they come up here to do a job and they
Mhm.
find out,
Love
we've all known
stayed
all
there
along,
and
it's
stayed
beautiful.
here,
And
yeah. Mhm.
Well, Kelly, you mentioned that this started with a vote that where they got 93% approval, but there were only 10 people living in the county. It's pretty easy to do that.
Right. One thing I love about that, and I'd love to emphasize it more, is the fact that Calaveras County created us, created the district.
Yeah.
And so sometimes when there's heartache about the district this or the district that, it's like we were created by folks at that time who wanted us to have a certain purpose. And I truly feel that we are holding up that end of our agreement and why we were created. And
I'll bet our populations were very similar than currently.
no,
when
you're,
they- when
yeah,
they were
Probably
back
hasn't
then.
changed a lot, yeah.
they were
What's that?
expecting.
It probably hasn't changed a lot.
I mean, total population, I'm sure the locations are different, much different, but
Right.
we had a logging industry back then. We had that
Cement.
going on. We had the cement.
Cement plant.
I'll bet the populations were very similar.
There was a lot higher expectations for this county, not just population, but
Right.
agricultural, all this, and a lot of the old reports, it's really phenomenal to see what they were trying to anticipate or what they thought it might, come to be. Kind of glad it didn't. I'm glad.
One of the old master plans we saw, they were talking about 150,000 people in Calaveras
At
County.
least that one up behind us that had all the projections. I forget. It
Yeah.
was a Castle study or
Mhm.
something, but it
Yeah.
had all the decade by decade. And it was, that whole thing stopped, in the 90s.
Well, Kelly, you're in the perfect place to tell the story.
Yep.
Thank you. I
Good,
appreciate that.
good storyteller.
Mhm.
Okay,
Good man.
does this
you.
conclude all the questions here, Kelly? How about online? How about people in their cars parked on the side of the road?
Yeah.
Has
The
there
two
been
amigos
any environmental impact studies made on the cloud seeding programs used to increase the water levels for the hydroelectric dams?
Sorry, you're breaking up a little bit. Could you repeat the question?
Ask if there's been any environmental studies or impact reports done on the cloud seeding programs used to increase the water levels at the hydroelectric dams.
That's a good question. We could find out. NCPA is the one that does that. And I don't know if they were required to do an environmental impact report for that program or not, but we could find out for you.
Definitely like to see that.
Sure.
Okay, any other questions online? All right, going on to item number 5, reports, general manager's report.
All right, I am going to go very quickly. We had a property ad hoc committee meeting recently where we discussed doing an RFP for a local real estate agent to list several CCWD properties that are no longer or aren't, that we don't have use for anymore. A couple of other aspects of that we're still working on, finding value for any properties that we have that we're not using operationally. So we reporting probably in a couple of months, bring a full report back. Maybe we agendize a full report back for the board to show where we land on all of that. I wasn't there, but there was a long finance committee meeting a couple weeks ago. Kelly gave a very detailed presentation, Kelly Richards, on the status of the Tyler implementation. The short version of that is for everybody involved to buckle up over the next few months. It is going to be a very accelerated timeframe for that implementation. It's going to be a tremendous amount of additional work, especially for our admin services staff, but it'll affect HR at different times. It'll affect other departments as well, and we're doing it on a very expedited timeframe. So the next few months, we hope if it all goes as planned, and I think we have the right people in place to make it happen, that will be done with the implementation by the end of the year, which is what we've been targeting. And so there is light at the end of the tunnel, but the next few months are going to be a pretty intense additional workload for admin services and HR in particular. The, that presentation, I think we've covered that enough, and I already mentioned that we're gonna give that presentation at a couple of other agencies. And then I think eventually that will also develop, as we develop a more robust public outreach plan for the Norfolk project relicensing, that probably a modified version of that will become, something that where we try to invite more of the public to learn about the project and learn about relicensing and where we're at in that process. We have a lot of work going on the construction front. Jenny Lind A to B has been delayed, unfortunately, just because of procurement problems, but a lot, the equipment's been mobilized, the items have been purchased. It's just some delay in receiving the materials, but that project is moving forward. Copper projects are making a lot of progress. We're doing startup on 2 of the lift stations this week, and hopefully be done with the rest of them by this fall, right? So that's a project that's been a long time coming. And we're closing in on the end of it. West Point consolidation project also closing in on the end of that. Just a tremendous amount of construction work underway. And then also the next projects that are in the pipeline are progressing as well. So that is a teaser for the engineering committee, September 10th. Getting ahead of myself here. Where we'll get into the status of all those projects. There's a lot more going on, but that's all I have for now.
Okay, and Jeff, we still have enough money to pay for all this stuff he's talking about. Okay, thank you. Board reports.
Okay, it's quite up the hill. One of the things that I wanted to talk about was the fact that I understand down at Jenny Lind, they're going to be refurbishing the ball field and everything, and they have a fellow, an ex-Marine who's going to be heading that.
Yeah.
You're talking about the vets?
Veterans Park, yeah.
Yeah, so I did outreach from White Pines Park, establishing contact with that fellow.
Good.
In case we could do anything to, give advice. I don't know how you can advise a Marine, but that was one thing I did.
Well, they have trouble filling those board seats, so they need to get that board filled.
He says he has a bunch of volunteers who are gonna help him clean up and do something with.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Uh-huh. So
So-
they're active.
Does that conclude your report?
Mhm.
Director Ratterman?
Nothing to report.
Director Davidson?
I have nothing to report, other than I will want to see at the engineering committee what materials we're missing and why and
Sure.
how we didn't anticipate that.
Yep.
So,
The contractor should have anticipated something. huh?
well, but we work with them, so then find out.
Okay. And likewise, I have nothing to report, maybe next time. All right, next board meetings, there'll be, the next CCWD regular board meeting will be September the 11th at 1 o'clock and followed later in the month by September 25th, also at 1 o'clock. And right now we're going into a couple of closed sessions, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.91 case. And then we also have an agency negotiators, another element that we'll be discussing with HR on a employee organization, SEIU. And we'll be coming back after that to report out on any reportable action. Thanks, everybody, for attending. Excuse me? Oh, public comment. Is there any public comment on the items that I listed on the closed session? I
I
don't
was still
see.
curious if there's going to be any refunds or credits issued to customers' accounts for the rate increases that were improperly added.
So we can't respond to that
County-
during, we can't respond to that during this meeting, but we can reach out to you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. All right, we're, like I said, we're going into closed session now. I think we're going into the training room. Is that correct?